All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the South Kingstown High School Auditorium. Today is Tuesday, April 14th. Thank you for your patience. Obviously, we weren't able to get to our planned public budget hearing last week, and we had to reschedule to today to allow more persons to attend a larger venue. It's a good thing. We want more public participation as much as we can get. This is democracy in action, but this is, required under our charter that we get to a number of public hearings before we get to final budget adoption. This is just another opportunity for the town council and the school committee to collaborate as to the town and schools budget and really work through to make sure we enact a final budget that is, best for all residents in town. But I'm just going to explain a few ground rules, how we're going to go about tonight. After we do our Pledge of Allegiance and acknowledgement statement, we're going to dive right into it. What's going to happen is we're going to hear a presentation from the town. We're then going to hear a presentation from the school department. We're then going to engage town council and school committee in some good collaboration, discussion, Q&A as to any questions we have regarding the details of the budget. After we're satisfied and reach the point where we don't have any pending questions tonight, we're then going to open up public comment. Because of the large number of persons in the audience tonight, we're going to limit the amount of time as to each person can speak to 2 minutes. So because of that, we ask you to pay attention, think about any questions that you have, try to be concise in what you want to say. And then, we want to hear from you. So come up and deliver that to us. We do ask that when you do come up, you identify your name. We have a book at the podium. If you could put your name in the book, it's just going to allow us to be able to identify who is here, who spoke to them. So I hope that makes sense to everyone. With that said, our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. All right, next on the agenda is the land acknowledgement statement. The town of South Kingstown pays homage to the indigenous people and land in which the town is now located. Let this acknowledgement serve as a reminder of our ongoing efforts to recognize, honor, reconcile, and partner with the Narragansett tribe whose land and water we benefit from today. Now we're going to move to the roll call.
Council President McEntee,
Here.
Council Vice President Marin,
Here.
Council Member Bergner.
Here.
Council Member Alley. Here. Council Member Wedgemont. All town council members are present.
All right, we're now going to turn to the school committee. I'm going to turn to School Committee Chair Carol Vetter to take the roll.
Stuart Lander,
Here.
Brad Shear.
Here.
Kate Massanati.
Here.
Paula Whitford.
Yeah.
Michelle Brousseau,
Yeah.
James Restivo.
Here.
And I, Carol Vetter, am here.
All right, it's now going to bring us straight to the public hearing. We're here tonight for a public hearing with the school committee relative to the town council's preliminary budget for fiscal year 26-27 as adopted on March 18, 2026. I'm now going to turn it over to the town manager, Jim Manning, for presentation.
Thank you, Council President. The town charter requires that two public hearings meet on the budget. Two public hearings are required to be conducted on the preliminary budget prior to April 18th. Final action on the budget by the town council shall occur on or before May 1st of each year, upon which time the town council considers any petitions received and gives final approval to the final budget by a majority vote of all members of the council. So it says May 1st there for the final action, but actually we're going to have it at the town council meeting on April 27th, and that'll be at the town hall. Could you please switch to page 3? So the town of South Kingstown 26-27 budget calendar is as follows. In April 2026, tonight, Monday the 14th, public hearing number 1. Tomorrow night, April 15th, public hearing number 2. There are other notifications also on this budget calendar. On April 21st at 4 p.m., that would be the deadline to submit petitions for revisions to the preliminary budget, which would require 25 signatures. On Monday, April 27th, consideration of petitions and final adoption of the operating budget. In May of 26, Tuesday, the 12th. That would be the 4 p.m. deadline for submissions of final petitions or referendum, which would require 200 signatures. On May 15th, Friday, the deadline for petition signatures would have to be verified by the Board of Canvassers. In June of 26, on Monday, the 8th, Town Council meeting, consideration of the tax resolution. Tuesday, the 9th, the possible budget referendum on Tuesday following the first Saturday in June, if needed. Monday, the 15th, Town Assessor sets the tax levy and tax rates for the fiscal year 26-27 operating budget. And on Monday, the 22nd, Town Council meeting, consideration of year-end transfers and uncollectible taxes. Page 4, please. If you look on this page, you will see the fiscal year 26-27 preliminary adopted operating budget highlights. You scroll down right under the blue, you will see the school operating budget at $64,313,034. That is up from fiscal year 25-26 by $1,050,730, which is a change of approximately 1.66%. The town operating budget, next line, is adopted for $35,754,000 is the preliminary budget for the town, which is a change over $1,731,000 from fiscal year 25-26. That's a 5.09% increase. The debt service that the town will be carrying in this preliminary budget is $4,406,000. The breakdown of that is as follows. It is the education debt service for the new high school is approximately 80%, which is 3.5 million of that number. The town debt service is approximately approximately $900,000, or approximately 20% of that number. So once again, the debt service budget is $4,406,000. The change from 25-26 was $939,000, or a 27.08% increase. The driver for that number going up was the paying the debt service for the new high school. The proposed tax transfer to schools, next line, is approximately $57 million, $56,994,000. That is a change of $1 million over the 25-26 operating budget, which is a 1.79% increase. The proposed tax levy is $80,886,000. The change from the year before on that tax levy was $1,706,000, which is a 2.16% increase. So the proposed tax rate for the preliminary budget would be $9.09 per $1,000 of value on the assessment of each home or business. There's a change of 15 cents on the proposed tax rate from the year before. The year before was $8.94. That is a 1.68% increase from last year. The estimated net assessed value, this is the tax base in this town, is $8,876,821,000. That is our tax base. We have a strong tax base. That is a change of approximately $44 million from the previous year, 25-26, which is a 0.50% increase. Page 5, please. These are the highlights of the personnel costs that the town is adopting in its budget for 26-27. IBPO, which is the International Brotherhood of Police Officers Personnel, get a cost of living increase of 3%. The IAFF is the International Association of Firefighters, 2%. Council 94 personnel, 2%. South Kingston MEA/NEA, 3%, and non-union personnel, 2.50%. Some of those employment groups are eligible for skill-based incentives, which could change those percentages a little, but those are the stable rates that are coming as they're in a collective bargaining agreement. The proposed position changes. We're only adding 1.55 full-time staff here in South Kingston this upcoming year. One is the paramedic position, which if you look over to the right, that's one FTE. The wages approximately 70,000, the benefits approximately 36,000. The total is $105,000. We have a fire inspector that we elevated from part-time to full-time, which the wages were 27,000, approximate benefits 15,000, total was 42,000. So that raised, so the total subtotal of all proposed position changes is $96,000 in wages, 51,000 in benefits, total of 147,000 and 1.55 FTEs. Go to page 6. The South Kingstown Director of Finance will take over from there for the next several pages, and I'll jump back in. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. This is more of a detailed summary of the assessed values of the town that the town manager just spoke to a few pages earlier. The top section is the residential real estate, which you're seeing growth of $36.5 million from one year to the next. So on the top, you have the actual values for real estate, and underneath is any exemptions available to residents. The next section is commercial, which you're seeing a nearly $7 million increase on commercial values. And finally, tangible personal property is going down about $1 million. And the lowest portion on the page, that net assessed value, that takes the grouping from each residential, commercial, and tangible, and it nets the values versus against the exemptions. So that's where you have, again, a summary of the assessed values for the town, which are, as mentioned earlier, going up approximately $44 million to $8,876 million. Page 7. This is a summary of the tax rate change, the tax levy. The first two columns next to along the top on the left-hand side, those are the assessed values once again from the prior 2 years, which were just noted. The third column over is the tax rate for the current fiscal year, which is was set at $8.94. The next column, fiscal year 26-27 prelim adopted tax rates. That's what's proposed for next year at $9.09. The next column over was the adopted levy for the current fiscal year at $79.1 million. And when working through the assessed values with the proposed rates, you'll see the prelim tax levy for next year at $80,886,000. That again is an increase of $1.7 million or a levy increase of 2.16. The change for 1 cent of on the tax rate equates to $87,765. Next slide, please. Page 8. So this slide, very similar to the last slide, it's just showing you the state imposes a 4% tax levy cap on municipalities where you can only raise taxes, the levy 4% from 1 year to the next. So this illustrates what the town is eligible to go up. So the town is eligible under this cap to go up to a tax rate of $9.25, which would result in new revenue of $3.1 million or a tax levy of 3.93. Overall, that would result in additional tax revenue of, and this is all in the middle of the page, that 4% levy budget revenue, all the way over on the middle section. That would be an additional increase of $1,390,000. Next slide, please.
Page 9 is the residential real estate median assessed single-family property. This just gives you an overview of what our tax roll looks like. There are approximately 14,000 properties on our tax roll. Single-family homes account for nearly 12,000 of those. And I'll go over the breakdown. So in fiscal year 25-26 on the adopted budget, the median assessed value was $586,300 with a tax rate of $8.94. Fiscal year 26-27, the preliminary adopted budget is $586,300. Tax rate went up to $9.09 which would increase the median assessed taxes due at $5,329, which is a net change of $88 more if you had a home assessed at that amount, which approximately half of all the homes in this town are that number or below. The fiscal year 26-27 state cap on a home that's assessed at $586,000. The tax rate would be $9.25, which means the taxes due would be $5,423, or a net change of $182 per house. So what is the median assessed value? This was set during the town's most recent statistical revaluation, which was completed last year with an assessment date of December 31st, 2024, as set by the tax assessor's office. I referred to the cap on page 9, but let's go to page 10, please. So many times people ask, why can't we raise the taxes up to the cap 4% or over? The strict state law on that, which we would not be able to do that unless over 4%, unless it met the following criteria, and it's worth mentioning that, which I'll go over right now. So this is the checklist to request exceeding the state 4% tax levy cap. When I'm saying we're going to do this, we're just giving an explanation to all the people that have asked us why we can't. All requests to exceed the state's tax levy cap of 4% are sent to the Division of Municipal Finance within the Department of Revenue for the state of Rhode Island. There are 3 areas that will be considered by the state when requesting an exemption on the state's 4% tax levy cap on the Rhode Island General Law 44-5-2, which are as follows. Non-union property tax revenue loss, 1. If a city or town projects a substantial loss in non-property tax revenue from one year to the next, cities and towns have the ability to request to exceed the 4% state tax levy cap to offset this projected loss in revenue. So what would be an example of that? The fund balance would have to go down, would be an example. An economic downturn, a recession, or the investments that the town has going down. That would be an example of when you could surpass the 4% state tax levy cap. Number 2, substantial tax base growth. If a city or town experiences substantial growth in the tax base as a result of new construction that necessitates infrastructure improvements and increased municipal services to keep pace, cities and towns have the ability to request to exceed the 4% state tax levy cap to offset these added operational expenses. 3, the debt service increases in excess of the cap. If a city or town forecasts debt service expenditures increasing by an amount greater than the state tax levy cap, amount 4% in a given year, city or towns have the ability to exceed the cap by notifying municipal finance on this scenario, which municipal finance will then look to certify. In the bottom, there's an asterisk. Additionally, cities and towns have the ability to request an exemption on the state tax levy cap of 4% due to an emergency situation. In the instance of an emergency situation, cities and towns would notify the Auditor General, who would work to certify the emergency or anticipated emergency situation. Page 11, please.
So page 11 details the operating budget property tax transfer need for the school department. So as noted earlier, the proposed local funding for education this year will be $56,994,000. $1 million of that came through transfers action taken by the council at the preliminary adoption, which are not from taxable revenue. So that is being backed out of that number. So you're seeing the net for local education there at 55,994. The middle section is the existing debt service on the books for the school department, which is 471,000, of which the town is anticipating state aid, school housing aid of 155,000. So the net number there being 316. And then the last section is the bond anticipation notes or bands for year 2 of construction on the high school project. That is anticipated for the upcoming year at $3,051,000. The town is anticipating proposed to use $850,000 from the use the debt service fund balance to lower that to $2.2 million. So the total for tax transfer for operations would be $58,512,404. Next slide, please. This is a summary of the breakdown of the proposed tax rate. You'll see along the top, the breakdown of the actual revenue. So the town represents 27.99% and the school represents 72.01 based on the preliminary adopted budget. That's where you get into the school number, that 58.5 that was on the last page. That represents 72.01% of the 81.2 million that you see on that second line. That's the total property tax revenue. That's a total of current year taxes, prior year taxes, interest on taxes, and payment in lieu of taxes or pilots. So that is a total of the property tax revenue for next year. Backing out first that other revenue, that is prior year taxes, interest on taxes and pilots, that's the $1.2 million. That applied to the same percentages for town and school. You see the amounts for town and school, breakdown of the 1.2 million. So the remaining balance needed from the levy from current year taxes, the 80,029,000, and the amount needed from each for town and school. Next section is the tangible. Tangible taxes have a rate locked by the state. So those are set. And so you see a breakdown there that we're anticipating revenue from tangible taxes of 1.1 million and the breakdown of each for town and school. Now, when backing out the tangible tax, we'll get to the need for commercial and residential. That's the next section, and that would be 79,778,000 and the breakdown for school and town on the adjacent lines. The bottom section is a summary. So you see again, current year taxes, 79,778,000, tangible taxes, 1.1 million. That comes to 80,886,000, what was on the prior page when we were talking about the levy. We're backing out for overlay and abatements because we don't anticipate collecting 100% of taxes. And that gets us down to the current year tax level, tax number in the budget, that 80,029,352. And the amounts for both town and school associated. Page 13, please. The top of page 13 is tangible, so I'm just going to jump right over that. We covered that on the last page. But the middle section on real estate, that's where you see a breakdown. I'm just going to jump to the middle section. You see a breakdown on the rate. So the rate is going up by 15 cents in the middle of the page, and you see a breakdown where 9 cents is associated with the town and 6 cents is associated with the schools. That's a summary of, that's a rate increase of 3.78 for the town and 0.88 for school for an overall 1.68% increase. And finally, at the bottom section, that estimated tax levy, that's where you see the top line is the levy that was adopted in the current year, the 79,180,000. The next year is proposed, the next line, excuse me, is the proposed at 80,886,000. That results in that same proposed levy increase for the year at $1.7 million. And again, that equates to a levy increase of 2.16 and the breakdown of each between town and school. Next slide, please. Page 14 is a 10-year summary of the breakdown that we just kind of talked about for the upcoming year. So you see the change from 2017-18 to 2026-27. Overall, the town is going up 3.25%, or is proposed to go up 3.25%, and the schools are going down 3.25%. The rate has going down from 1531 to a proposed 909 or $6.22. And the assessed value has more than doubled. We're going from 4.4 billion to 8.8 billion. And also the levy, the final net levy has gone up by 13 million. And the operating budgets in that time frame have gone up by nearly 18 million. That last, all of the other numbers in that column is the net change. That final one under the tax levy, that is the average. So over that 10 years, the town has averaged a levy increase of 1.96%. Next slide, please. I'm sorry. I should have noted, can you go back one? I should have noted where you see the twos on the next of the years, those are statistical revals, and the 3 is a full reval. Thank you. Next slide is page 15. This is a summary of the changes that were enacted within the preliminary adoption process. You see an increase of EMS billing of 329,000, an increase of open space funds transferring into the general fund of 291,000, an increase in the tax transfer to schools of $1 million, and an increase of the unassigned fund balance of 379,000. Overall, the budget as a whole does not change at 35,754,000. Next slide, please. This is a summary. This slide and the next slide, 17, is a summary of the distribution of the human service and outside agencies. The town had budgeted a set amount for this, and the council took action at the preliminary adoption to distribute those funds. So there was no change, just a distribution of the funds. So then on to slide 18 is the final change enacted through the preliminary adoption. That is increasing the school budget by $1 million from 63.3 million to 64.3 million on the revenue side, and corresponding $1 million increase on the expense side as well, from 63.3 million to 64.3 million. Next slide, slide 19. This is a year-end projection for the current fiscal year for the town of South Kingston. Currently, the town is projecting a year-end surplus of $1.6 million. The only change had been in the department revenues, fines, and charges column that had been showing that had improved by about 95,000. We had taken in substantial revenue in the short-term rentals line, which is a new revenue this year. And that has certainly changed our outlook on that line. And that we went from during our preliminary adoption, we were projecting a surplus of 1,545,000. That's now been up to 1,635,000 because of that one line item. No other changes at this time. Next slide. Slide 20 is a projection of the rollout of the debt service associated with the high school project. So the first column is the first section is existing town debt. And the first column is the current fiscal year, 25-26. So there you see the current debt on the books and revenue that's coming in to offset that. So we have conveyance tax revenue offsetting open space debt. And you see the total debt obligations for the current year at 899,000. Over this time frame that's shown here, you're seeing that go down to 642,000. The next section on this slide is the existing school debt. School debt for the town in the current year is 518,000, to which we're also anticipating school housing aid of 154,000. So that results in a tax need of 364,000 to support. And that will be going down over time on this to approximately 200,000. As that debt gets retired. The last section is the high school project, the high school debt. So the current year is in fiscal year 25-26 is the first year of bond anticipation notes to support construction of the project. That was set at that was budgeted at 1,750,000, to which the town used fund balance from its debt service fund of 682,000 to support. We're anticipating next year, in the next fiscal year, that number growing as we issue additional bands to $3,551,500. And again, the town will be anticipating using additional monies from its debt service fund balance to offset that need. Over time, as you can see, in the bottom column, the goal is to try and keep the growth in the debt service going up approximately $1 million as we roll out this debt. You'll see in 28-29, that's where that's where we actually issue the debt. Well, the debt will actually be issued in 27-28, but the debt service will come online and come due for the first time in 28-29. And that's where you see in that section where you have the debt service payment of $10.8 million, and you'll see the state aid start coming in. So that is again, until everything's issued, this is projected at this time, but this is where we're currently standing in terms of rolling out the debt service for the high school project.
So if you stay on page 20, one of the questions that continually was asked as we were preparing this budget what would the debt service be? Brian went over it. I'll go over it again so it's clear for the new high school. So if you go to that bottom, well, if you go to the third blue line from the bottom, it's South Kingston blue, that color. So first year, 25-26 is 1,067,000 on our debt service. Second year, it's 2,201,000 for our debt service. 27-28, 3.256 million. 28-29, 4.271 million. 29-30, 5.240 million. 30-31, 6.257 million. And then finally, in 30 fiscal year 31-32, they'll top out at approximately $7 million. So I know Brian went over it. I went over it again because that's one of the most common asked questions that I get regarding the building a new high school. Is how much would it cost? And Brian will continue for how many years after 31-32? 16 more years.
Next slide, please. This is a summary of all funds for the town. So the town in the current fiscal year, 25-26, the adopted all funds budget is 111,582,399. The preliminary adopted amount for next fiscal year is 116,005,218, and a proposed increase of 3.96%. Next slide, page 22. This is a summary of general fund revenues. As noted earlier, property tax revenue is made up of several components, and there you see them here. Again, current year tax revenue, prior year tax revenue, interest on taxes, and pilots is payment in lieu of taxes. That again, and then those tie into the same numbers that were discussed earlier, that total property tax revenue of 81.25 million. We're anticipating state aid growth to $7 million, licenses and permits at 1.8 million. Department revenues at 2.9 million, revenue from investments at 950,000. Operating transfers in at 866,000, operating transfers out at 61.2 million, and the fund balance applied at just over 2,079,000. So again, for a total proposed at 35,754,674.
So to expedite this for the next 7 or 8 pages, we'll go to the page, let you look at it for about 30 seconds, 20 seconds. If you have a question, you can ask us. Because it's really getting into the minutia of the town small operating budget, that what, where our dollars are going, very minutia. So I know people are here to have a much bigger discussion. So let's just go to page 23. If you have any questions on any of those numbers, you can ask. Page 24, please. Any questions on page 24? Page 25, please. Are there any questions on page 25? Page 26. Any questions on page 26? Page 27? No questions. We'll go to page 28. No questions. We'll go to page 29. Yes. Sir, I don't think your mic's on.
All right.
I don't think your mic is on.
Never was good at these mics. Town healthcare, bottom of page 29 has a series of zero figures all the way across. Just outline.
So that is, the town had previously budgeted funds in this. This is retiree health. So these funds went into the town's OPEB trust previously, above and beyond what was budgeted for retiree benefits.
Appreciate everyone's patience. We got about 7 more pages to go, then we can open it up. Page 30. No questions. We'll go to page 31.
Page 31 is a summary of the school department's operating budget, general revenue and expenses. So the top portion is the expenses, bottom portion revenues. You see overall, the school department's budget is currently proposed for an increase of 1.66% to $64,313,032. Next slide, please. This is a slide similar to the last slide where we did a kind of a 10-year look back. We wanted to look at the changes in appropriations for the school department. So we went back to 16-17 through 26-27. You see the school department has gone up from 51.3 million, which to nearly 57 million in that time frame. We are currently proposed for an increase of $1 million or 1.79%. Over that same time frame, the general fund's operating revenues has gone from 77 million to 97 million, which is a 58% increase in that same time frame.
Hey, Brian, I got a question on slide 31. Really directed toward the school department. So I have a question for the school department as it relates to slide 31. So this outlines preliminary adopted budget, also outlines prior year or the current year, fiscal year ended June 30, 2026, adopted about a year ago, as well as actual. Now that column related to actual, what is that date through? Is that today? Is that through March 31? Because what I see in that actual 25-26 is that the revenues exceed the expenses by approximately 2 million. I just want to get clarity as to what date that is through. I understand that's not projected through year end because you don't have revenues listed in the column for projected 25-26. So can you just add some clarity to that?
Can you please go to slide 31?
The end of March, so those numbers were pulled towards the end of March, which would have then not included in my belief that all payments through March would not have been accompanied at that time. So
Okay, hence the actual budget through March, or sorry, actual figures through March 31, 2026, resulting in, I guess on a cash basis, not a accrual. If it were accrual, it would be lower, I guess, surplus. Because what I see here is for the actual, so through March 31, 2026, the revenues exceed the expenses by 2 million. Now, maybe that's because certain expenses have not been paid out yet. This is on the cash basis of accounting. That's okay. That makes sense. But when we last met, I guess about a month ago, you had given us a projected fiscal year end actual showing up approximately, I recall, $230,000 surplus. And when I say surplus, I mean revenues in excess of expenses. At that time, you were being a little conservative because you had sort of estimated there were additional expenses that were gonna come into play. We didn't want to add that projected surplus to the unassigned fund balance. But now we're a month after the last time we met. Do you project a year-end surplus? When I say that any revenues in excess of expenses for the year-end fiscal year, June 30, 2026? Because now we're a month later. I don't know if you have any more clarity or if you're still being conservative. I know there's still 2.5 months to go before year-end. Go ahead.
So Rory, can I just say something? So we're not on a cash basis. We encumber contractual obligations. So certain costs are in the expenses that are encumbered. What's not is things like substitute pay, things that aren't contractual. So there's many expenses that are still unknown. This is not through the end of March even. But I just want to make sure we're not on cash accounting. It is municipal encumbrances. But I will let our administrators speak more to what they're projecting.
Do you confirm those statements?
So we do have encumbrances that are drawn out between now and March 30. I'm sorry, June 30. So these encumbrances are done throughout the entire year. Salaries, those type of things that are contract. The other thing that's in there are bus transportation. Anything that we have a contract for, we do it throughout the school year. We break it down and we put it into the encumbrances. And we feed off of that encumbrance because it's all PO driven.
So, my apologies. I'm actually looking at a presentation that does not include all the information that we're looking at here, and I just want to sort of revise my question, because now looking at the figures as reflected on the presentation that you show, and projected year end now is showing approximately $900,000 surplus for fiscal year ended 25-26, which is an increase of about 600,000 from the last time we spoke about a month ago. So now you feel a little bit more comfortable that projected surplus will be realized even greater so than the amount we looked at prior. And that's a good thing. I'm just pointing it out.
I understand. So now what happens is we go back to all the departments and we ask them about their encumbrances. We ask them if they're going to be spending all the dollars that they said they were going to spend during the course of the year. If they're not going to be spending, then we adjust their POs down so the encumbrances decrease. And then we can get a better feel at the end of April, beginning of May, where we're going to end.
But when it comes to having a projection on a slide that you show to all of us here tonight, wouldn't it make sense from a conservative perspective to account for those encumbrances such that you're not showing a large projection?
You are,
You are accounting for it.
yes, we
And
are.
after accounting for that, you show a projected year-end surplus of around 900,000.
The way the numbers are right now. So now we go, like I just said, we go back to all the departments. We say, are you going to be spending all this? Do you feel that the prices that we put in are going to stay the same? Some prices might increase, some prices might decrease, depending on how they're spending it.
All right. Can you at least say, as compared to a month ago, you feel more comfortable increasing the projected surplus such that you believe there will be a realized surplus? Because
As-
showing different
As
figures.
of
that you did.
today, right now, with that, not any other numbers moving, yes,
Okay, that's a good thing, by the way.
yes.
Thank you.
Can I make a logistical request? See how I'm talking into the microphone and everyone can hear me? I'm really loud, which is probably annoying to some people, but is helpful to people in the back. If I turn my head like this or like this, no one can hear me. So we really have to talk into the microphone, please. Thank you.
Okay. I'm talking right into it. Is it fine? Okay. So user error. Okay. So I just want to be, I'm not a CPA, nor am I a lawyer. I'm just trying to ask it in a very, so I just have a very simple question. And I think that's what Roy was asking. and maybe I misunderstood it, Roy, so please let me know. A month ago, you said you were gonna project a surplus of 230,000. And then he did a lot of math calculations, and now he's saying it's trending towards 900,000. Is that accurate? Not about the encumbrances, but is it going to be 900,000, 200,000, or somewhere in between?
Somewhere in between.
Somewhere in between. Okay. And where do you think it lies? Between the 2 and the 9? Closer to the 2 or closer to the 9?
I can't say that right now for certain. It all depends on how we take care of the encumbrances that are in those numbers.
Right. Is that pretty much what you?
I'm just wondering when you would have that information. Is that not going to be available to us until, when do you think? June 1st or?
So as I just said, we go back out to, the email went out to all the departments to take a look at their encumbrances to see where their programs are going to end at year end.
And so-
If they come back to us and say that they are not going to be spending all the money that has been encumbered for their various programs, then we will adjust the POs that are in the system.
I do understand that. Is there a date that that information is due by?
Yes, it's due by the end of April. And then once we take a look at that and we go through the motions and adjust the POs, we should have a better feel in May.
Thank you.
All right. we can keep going.
We move to slide 33, please. This is again, unless anybody has any questions, this is the special revenue funds. We could proceed. All right. So page 34, that is the enterprise funds. Which again, we have gone over previously. Unless anybody has any questions, we could proceed to page 35. Page 35 is a summary breakdown of the proposed amendments that would be needed to, as a result of the healthcare changes, where we had projecting a 10.5% increase for healthcare for the upcoming year and 3% on dental. Those rates are now coming in at 12.06 for healthcare and 8.47 for dental. So this is a breakdown of the impact by department. Overall, the impact on the general fund is 125,000. You see the impacts per department. And then a proposed change to offset that expenditure, which would be increasing the prior year tax revenue. On page 36, that is so these are some proposed amendments for the senior center and the general fund are related to the senior center. And then finally on page 37 is the same impact for the changes in healthcare, but with the side funds. So with the senior center, the recreation center, neighborhood guild, water, wastewater, and solid waste.
I just have a brief question. So on
Yeah.
slide 36, the Narragansett cost share. It's in the red, 68,000. Is that because Narragansett is proposing to? Oh, I'm so sorry, Kate. My bad. How's that? Is that better? All right. So slide 36, the Narragansett cost share. Is that because they are proposing the town council of Narragansett to cut their sharing of expenditures with us?
Yes, it is. Well, by all indications, it appears that Narragansett will not be paying their share of the South Kingston Senior Center from this point forward. They stated there's a duplication of programming with their own senior center.
Okay, thank you.
And that concluded the presentation.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Brian. Questions at this point? Go ahead.
I have a clarifying question. Page 20, the debt obligations of the town. Where you have the projected future school debt and the estimated bond, the bands. and the new school debt. I just want to clarify and make sure, I believe it's here. I just want to make sure I'm understanding it. So once the 10 million starts to hit in fiscal year 28, 29 and forward, the school housing aid, which is the less debt service revenue offset, that's the percentage we're receiving back from RIDE to help offset. Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct. So the first line under the less debt service revenue offsets, that school housing aid, that's where you see that begin in 28, 29 as well, at approximately $44 million, which is the housing aid the state will be providing to offset the high school debt.
I'm assuming that's just that's kind of an assumption based on where we are currently, and that could change either
Absolutely.
more or less over
Yep.
those years.
I mean, we don't know the amount that will be issued in the debt yet. Obviously, the rate could change, so
Yep.
there are certainly variables there, yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, any other questions before we move on to the school's presentation? All right, Mr. Pedraza, I'm going to hand it over to you, the school department's presentation.
Thank you. I'll apologize in advance. In terms of when looking back over the past few years, in terms of what was presented, it was statements that were given and not presentations. However, I have my remarks this evening. You have the documentation before you here, as well as our tech department can put it up should the questions arise, whether it be through my remarks or through town comment. So, and if need be, I can place it into presentation form for tomorrow evening. So, again, good evening, Council President McEntee, members of the Town Council, Town Manager Manny, School Committee Chair Vetter, members of the school committee, and most importantly, our members of the public. Thank you for your time and continued commitment to South Kingstown students, schools, and residents. I will begin by expressing gratitude. Finding $1 million in additional appropriation in a constrained budget environment is not a small thing. I watched and I recognized the hard work this council put into arriving at the preliminary FY27 figure. That figure reflects a genuine commitment to our schools, and we do not take it for granted. But when the district submitted its FY27 budget, we built it on reasonable assumptions: level enrollment, projected benefit rates, estimated transportation costs. And as you are aware, since that submission, the picture has changed. Health insurance is coming in at 12.06% rather than the 10% as told by the trust. Dental is at 8.47 rather than 5%. The governor's budget currently reduces our state aid by nearly 458. A one-time local appropriation from this fiscal year does not carry forward, adding another 608 to the gap. Taken together, these known cost drivers, before we have resolved collective bargaining agreements, established tuition rates for next year, an expiring transportation contract, or federal funding levels, totals more than $3.2 million in required costs before we even talk about things like textbooks, new science lab equipment, or professional development. It is against that backdrop that with the $1 million increase in the local appropriation, we need to account for $2.2 million in just those cost categories I just outlined. If we go with no changes to the sole bid received in transportation alone, that pushes us up to $3 million. Again, to be transparent about what this means in practice, since the preliminary budget was approved, the school committee went through the exercise of creating and discussing budget decision matrix that lays out options we have identified for reducing costs based on where the district programming exceeds the level outlined in the BEP, otherwise known as the Basic Education Plan. I want to be clear for everyone out there. There is nothing on that list that anyone in the room wants to cut. Every item represents something that students value, that our families rely on, and that our staff delivers with care. Music and world language opportunities, athletic programs, after-school access, student support services, and technology that keeps our schools and students safe and connected. These are not abstractions. They are experiences that make South Kingstown schools worth choosing. Reaching $1 million in saving from that list alone, from that matrix, requires drawing from nearly every category it contains. And the cumulative weight of those losses would be felt across every school in this district. To bridge the remaining shortfall, the district is committing $1 million of fund balance to operations. And as you know, fund balance exists for the unexpected, the structural failure, the enrollment shift, a federal funding disruption, none of which we can take offline. Drawing it down for reoccurring expenses doesn't solve a budget problem. It defers it and leaves us without a safety net when something unpredictable does occur. It also diverts reserves that we would be otherwise supporting the capital improvement in our schools. And I would also like the council and the public to know what the district is doing to manage costs responsibly and contribute to the town's broader financial picture. Through highlighting reimbursable and putting priority on our reimbursable capital projects filed with RIDE, we have already submitted $1.2 million in completed work with an anticipated housing aid reimbursement on just that 1.2 of more than $423,000 flowing back currently to the town general fund. This figure does not include the $500,000 roofing project that will be completed next week at Broad Rock Middle School. On the personnel side, we're updating our projections, and we show that employee retirements and reductions are generating approximately $645,000 in savings, roughly $32,000 more than our original estimate. We will continue to monitor those transitions closely and pursue every available opportunity for cost saving. We are committed to being responsible stewards of public resources, and we know we need to be an active partner in South Kingstown's fiscal well-being. However, we are not asking for more than we need. None of the costs outlined that I just outlined are things that we've done, or things that rather they are things that are being told to us that are required to deliver public education. We are asking for what is required to maintain the programs and services South Kingstown students and families depend on, and to protect the district's long-term financial stability and investments in the said high school and athletic field. I am grateful for this evening's opportunities for engagement and collaboration with one another and with the public, as well as the commitment to the students and families of South Kingstown that I know both the town council and the school committee share. So with that, if there are any more questions about the school department's budget, and that was presented earlier, or any of the documents or figures that I have cited or that are before you, we're happy to answer at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Pedraza. Any questions, council members of the committee? Go ahead.
I want to follow up on something we discussed briefly. When the school committee met with us in March, your presentation included two different numbers with respect to capital improvement. The plan for 26, 27, and I had asked about this at the time, indicated zero expenditures on capital improvement. But there was another line item in a separate document. The UCOA code is 57,000. Yes, sir. But it also says capital improvement. It had 1.4 million. Can you just explain the difference between the two?
Let me make sure on that. We'll take a look at it, but my initial is that when we first did the capital improvement, we weren't thinking of using our reserves towards operating expenses, knowing that, again, our 3.5 preliminary estimate on our budget increase, that the town would not be able to absorb that. And so that ultimately using $1 million that we've over the past few years are now putting towards capital improvement, that would need to go towards operational expenses. However, we can't leave capital alone. Obviously, we have the 3% max minimum that we need to meet, but we also need to still account for, if we're not putting on roofs and HVACs, we're going to have to designate funds given directly to maintain and, for lack of a better word, slap some Band-Aids on it. So, however, if in terms of the 1.44, was that in terms of fund balance or dedicated to capital improvement?
It was line item 57,000, I believe. You don't have it in front of you now.
Yes, the property capital expenditure.
I have that up on my screen as well.
So 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 that comes from that 1,142,215 off of the 5,700 property capital expenditures does exist. However, again, most of that is coming in terms of expenditures is coming from dedicated fund balance this year, which is not available to us for capital next year. So we've shifted it. If you notice, yeah, that's what we're spending in capital this year, not next year.
Can you provide some detail as to what the capital expenditures will be that make up that amount?
For this year, absolutely. Actually, the ones that have been completed thus far, I've provided. I have provided,
Mr. Pedraza, I'm talking specifically fiscal year 26-27.
oh, so what capital improvement projects will not be done?
Well, first off, let me ask you this, yes or no question. Are there any capital improvement plan expenditures in your fiscal year 26-27 budget?
Not currently.
Zero.
Not, yes, sir. Correct.
Now, there's an amount in current year, fiscal year ended June 30, 2026. That amount is approximately 1.4.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, when we look at this sheet here, we're looking at page 2. There's an amount of about 1.2. That's the amount of the 1.4 in fiscal year ended June 30, 2026 that we believe is subject to a minimum 35% reimbursement.
Yes, and that has been, and those have been filed and submitted with RUT. We've gone, additionally, some of that increase may have been for projects in years past that were never submitted. Our team has gone back and cross-referenced any repairs that may qualify either under repairs or towards a project. And so our total of submitted this year to date may have exceeded what we have here in our 1.1 because we've gone back and submitted from prior fiscal years, which is allowable because we are still within that approval. Unfortunately, it doesn't get the higher rate of reimbursement, but it is eligible for housing, the 35% housing.
And assuming you do receive that full amount of reimbursement, you have a plan as to expenditures of that money so we could further receive reimbursement on the amount spent there?
At this time, it goes to the general fund.
That's assuming
If-
that we
We
are
would
willing
need,
to
we would need those dollars. Yes, we would need those dollars in order to help us get, because of our operating expenses going up, our approximate 1.9 of total in our current fiscal reality. We would need those funds to then go towards our 3% maintenance of effort. And we would be able to designate projects such as roofs and HVAC units that those would go towards.
That's why I was asking about the two different line items in the budget presentation, because going back to the January meeting, still, the January meeting that the school committee and the town council had together, we had started to discuss the idea that since these 423,000 was actually going to be essentially a check to the town from the state of Rhode Island, that we could work with the school department and come to us for the capital improvement funds that we need to essentially take that down the road, because in your budget, capital expenditure is going to be zero.
Correct.
All right, I just want to make sure that I understood it correctly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Apologies for any confusion.
So just to add some clarity to that. I'm asking these questions under the assumption that the town council will give to the school department the amount it's reimbursed related to the projects that are not the high school, but are still subject to reimbursement under the RIDE plan. So you do have a plan as to use of those monies, assuming we've received reimbursement of the approximately 423,000. We do have a plan as to use of those monies, and they will be applied toward expenditures that will also be subject to reimbursement.
Yes, as conditions, assuming conditions allowed that it is we would prioritize a reimbursable expense unless it was an emergency expense in order to keep the school is up and operational, under which most of those under RIDE may still be reimbursable if we have not hit our emergency allocations.
And hopefully some of those subsequent capital expenditures will be subject to a higher reimbursement rate. So hopefully, is that correct? Can someone
It would
clarify
always,
that?
it would always, the existing projects, anything not related. So all of the projects identified in the capital improvement plan approved by RIDE that would have been reimbursable at a higher rate, which was approximately $30 million of projects are reimbursable for all of the other schools, with exception of in terms of the high school and the athletic fields. Those are the only projects that are reimbursable at the higher rate. Everything else, all those $30 million of projects that RIDE said are reimbursable, they are no longer reimbursable to us at that higher rate, such as the high school and the fields are. Those are just reimbursable. Should we be able to complete those projects, they are only reimbursable at the 35% rate.
So I think that's a little puzzling because it was my understanding that what was submitted on the stage 2, all that menu of all the items, if we presented them and we had this whole conversation, we were bundling, right? We were talking bundling at our, yeah, okay. So we talked about, I forget if it was Chris or Kate, it was Chris or Phil, who talked about bundling. We would submit them as a bundle and we would get the 55 or 52% reimbursement. So that's why, while you're talking about they're not eligible, everyone here is puzzled the other way.
They had to, any projects that were going to be reimbursed as part of the wholesale construction those contracts needed to be, for lack of a better term, bundled by 2024 and those contracts.
That,
Could I just say that I feel like at the last budget meeting, the superintendent did make that point, right? When we were talking about it, that it was too late to bundle it at that point, right?
Correct. And specifically in terms of the way that the bond, when it was passed, was that up to 150 million for the high school and the fields. But that was, none of those funds were able to be allocated to any of other schools
so that
and be reimbursed.
that's
They can
not
be
been out.
reimbursed.
I would like a little bit more of a deep dive to dig into
Yeah.
that because I'm feeling like that is not, I could be wrong. I'll happily be wrong, but I do not feel like that is right because it was part of our vote.
Yeah.
And
So-
so I was under the impression it was 27, 28, as long as it was done prior and bundled together. And my assumption is that's why some projects haven't been submitted to RIDE yet, because we were waiting to bundle. But because we've had so much turnover in our administration, historical knowledge unfortunately goes with them. But I would love it if we could get a confirmation, and maybe it's not tonight, but we need a confirmation on that because I was under the impression that we had till 27, 28.
Yeah, and we talked about this at the school building committee before.
Yes.
The initial submission in December of 23 to RIDE for phase 2, they approved up to $116 million as part of the 52% reimbursement. Because it's a complex formula, but that has been our understanding, is that any of the projects undertaken as part of our phase 2 are eligible, stage 2 are eligible, right?
I have a letter dated December 19th, 2023, approved of necessity of school construction, South Kingston. And this is where RIDE was, this is from Council of Elementary and Secondary Education. And this is detailing that the approved projects for the high school project the town was approved for $106,576,400 for reimbursements on the high school, $11,095,845 on the athletic field. And then there are approved projects bundled within this for repair and renovations, Hazard Building, 6.5 million, Broad Rock Middle School, 9.7 million, Peacedale Elementary, 8.4 million, Matunic Elementary, 3.7 million, and West Kingston Elementary at 3.7 million.
That is correct, and that is the memo that I have. But in terms of that $30 million plus of projects, there are not funds
There were-
issued.
That's correct.
Or-
There were never funds
Yep.
allocated for those projects, but I think that we had talked many times about using that as a potential revolving, right? I feel like that's what we said. That's what we're still saying, so that if any of the menu of those items from that letter from 2023 are capital projects, we will expend the full amount and then get RIDE to give us back 52% when they're bundled with other projects.
If they're,
If-
if they're bundled, if we're looking to submit them now to get the reimbursement now, then they're at the 35 or
Right,
37.
Right.
If we wait to submit all together when the entire project is completed, then we get the higher reimbursement.
So
Right,
that was,
and
our-
we still have the 3% maintenance of effort to make. So in order to make that, for instance, the West Kingston parking lot, we couldn't wait to send that to RIDE because we needed that in our 3% maintenance of effort. So there's a lot of juggling going on, but that was my understanding too, that for projects we could wait to bundle, that wouldn't be it wouldn't affect the 3% maintenance of effort. We would get the higher reimbursement on. But that's very difficult to achieve given our year-over-year maintenance of effort. But having back the leverage of these funds coming back to put back in the system might be a way forward. But I also think our time frame is short for when this has to be all done in that bundle sent.
Correct.
I think the difference is that what we understood was eligibility. What you're talking about is essentially timing. That for cash flow purposes, timing getting the projects done, we may not be able to take advantage of the full 52%. So they're still eligible for the 35, but we may not get the full.
Because we will not get the full
Alright.
because they needed to be under contract before June 30th of 2024, according to Bill Trimble at Rhode Island Department of Education. That was asked and received on January 12th, subsequent to our meeting.
Brian, go ahead.
By on the reimbursements from RIDE. Presently, reimbursements from RIDE are received by the town and they are deposited into the debt service fund of the town. I believe previously, the town established a school capital improvement fund, which is a capital account for the school department controlled by the town. And we have, the town has deposited funds in that capital account before, and that's what was talked about where some of these projects, if the funds were to move over from the debt service fund, they would go to that fund for school capital projects. I just want to clarify, those funds aren't in the town general fund. They're in the debt service fund and they could go into that school capital account.
Thank you, Brian. All right, I'm gonna switch gears a little bit here. I understand you
Can I
have,
ask a clarifying question on that first? Are you saying you've already set that account up, like how we've been talking about it kind of collaboratively for the past couple months? Are you saying you guys have gone ahead and created that capital improvement, or is this different?
No. I believe the origins of it, I don't hold me to it, but I believe it was created actually in 2018. It's been around. There's approximately 170,000 in there right now. Actually, some of the funds in that fund were used before we actually had a high school project here. Some of the early expenses on the high school project this time, before we had an actual project, that fund was used.
So it's already there, so we can just fund it.
So I will read on from Mr. Trimble in terms of any projects that were approved by RIDE and under the contract before June 30th, 2024. Either an A&E contract or construction firm are eligible for enhanced bonuses. One potential strategy is that any CIP projects that you bundle with the high school project by submitting them at the same time on the same F-105 form would qualify for whatever bonuses the high school project will receive. The funding source does not affect the amount of bonuses you can receive. However, we would not receive those as part of our to the chair's point, our 3% maintenance of effort, nor would we be getting those reimbursements until we started making payments and receiving back. So.
Just a quick, Mr. Pedraza, could you, a number of people here weren't elected at that time. Could you make sure that we at least have that to read over at our own time?
Sure.
Because it is a little confusing.
It is, especially with that under contract where I say, okay, it needs to be under contract and here we are in 2026.
Right.
And then it's saying, okay, when you submit the F-105, well, that's not going to happen until substantially complete.
Because I just think if I'm not hearing it correctly, it sounds like that meeting happened in December of 2023. They're telling us these projects need to be under contract in 2024. Is that what you read? December 30th, 2024?
Yes.
To be eligible for the 52?
So any projects that were approved by RIDE and under contract before June 30th, 2024 are eligible for enhanced bonus
And any future ones on that list?
that we bundle, that we bundle with those submissions once completed.
Okay. I'm just,
Yeah,
it doesn't mean that the
No,
project, whatever,
it's very-
scale, roof, if we didn't have it under contract on 2024, but it's on the list, it can still be.
right. However, it might need to then be bundled and we'll need to check with
Right.
the bundled, but it might not be on a project such as, let's say, the new substantially complete, whether that be the demolition of Curtis Corner Middle School or whether that be the high school or the demolition of the current building that we're sitting in. Whether we are still eligible to bundle things that are paid for now and get that enhanced reimbursement. But once again, in terms of a maintenance of effort of $1.9 million on average per year, we need to hit those.
Right.
So that we don't get back into the circumstance that we were in this year from last year when we missed that 3% and all that housing aid was held and then had to be used, granted, we used it on housing aid
Right.
projects.
Okay.
Can I also just say, I want to make sure, like I said, we really need to clarify, because if the project was supposed to be started and under contract in 2024, I'm 99% certain we weren't even under contract with Gilbane in 2024. So we were 2024.
Shortly after the bond referendum was approved, we pushed with Bill Conti to get that done.
Anyway, I'm not 100% sure on that. So my point is, we're not 100% certain. So I think we
Yeah.
need to be, right? If we're making definitive statements, I want to make sure that we're all accurate in what we're saying.
I also think it would be helpful if we had a list of the projects provided to us, like you just mentioned, the Broad Rock roof. What are all those past projects that you submitted that are 423? I know you.
Yep, I've provided with I've provided a spreadsheet to everyone for all of the ones that are not in yellow are the ones that have been submitted to date. The ones in yellow are those that we still expect to have substantially complete or are aiming to be substantially complete and submit for RIDE reimbursement. So that is a working document. And again, I'll highlight the most important one there is the Broad Rock roof of $500,000 in order to make sure we do get to and actually exceed our 3% maintenance of effort. What's not included in here are other costs, though, that do go towards that 3%, such as salaries and benefits of maintenance directors and of maintenance staff, as well as town debt service onto school projects.
All right, we're going to shift gears now a little bit. I want you to, I know you have prepared a slide detailing the changes in the undesignated fund balance school department. Can you bring that slide up?
So, Mr. Richard, that was a part of that was the other document in the town's presentation.
All right, my first question, without even looking at the slide, really. I know you have a policy as to minimum amount in this balance you'd like to maintain as a percentage of school's operating budget. Tell me what that policy is. Is it between 2% and 3%?
It was between 1 and 2.
1% and 2%? What does that equate to in dollars between 1% and 2%?
We would be at 3%. We would be at, if,
No, tell me what 1% is and tell me what 2% is, and then we'll look at what that compares to.
1% of budget would be approximately $630,000. 2% of budget would be approximately 1.26 million. I'm sorry, yes, 1.261. And on that slide, that would, that amount, would be approximately 3.14.
Okay, so the projected year-end fund balance as depicted on this slide, it's approximately 3%. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So outside, your
Current.
self-governed policy.
Yes, sir.
And does that figure, the 1.9, does that account for any of the projected surplus? We've already established tonight, it's
No,
likely to fall somewhere between 230,000 and 900,000?
no, it does not.
Does not. Okay. So because it's outside your self-governed policy, it's certainly an area that could be utilized as to make up any potential deficit. Now that is up to discretion of the school committee, work with the school administration as to that. But now I want to come, we're going to leave that there. I want to come back with something else to
Okay.
discuss.
It's the second docket, so when the town sent over their slide, there was another document along with it.
All right. I'm gonna ask a few more questions on this before I move to my next thing, because I'd like to have the finance director and the town manager here for my next line of questioning.
They are,
So in terms of dollars, the projected fund balance year end fiscal year 27, 1.9. That's approximately 700,000 in excess of the 2%, which would be the higher end of the self-governed policy as to how much is taken into account.
that is correct.
Okay. Now, we also identified it does not include any projected budget surplus for the current fiscal year ended June 30, 2026. Now, if we account for any of that, let's just say on the low end, 230,000. Let's even say 300.
Okay.
Okay, because it's already been identified that it's going to fall somewhere between 230 and 900,000 likely. We don't know where, could be on the lower end. We're not certain. You really don't know where it's going to land. But let's just say conservatively, let's just say 300,000. That's going to leave this fund balance at $1 million in excess of the 2%, which is a positive thing.
Yes, sir.
Allows for, monies to be tapped into in the, event you had no other source to go to.
Correct.
And you'd still be at the 2%, which is good. Leaving at 1%, 600,000, that is too risky. That's not good fiscal management. I wouldn't feel comfortable going down that route. Keeping it at minimum 2% seems good. I wouldn't even go below the 2%. But keeping it at the 2% and assuming a $300,000 budget surplus for hopefully more than that, that would give you another $1 million to tap into. Again, positive thing. I'm just pointing it out to you.
Yep, positive thing, as well as we would also need to adjust because our operating expense.
Yep.
Would
All
be
right,
go-
now I'm
would
gonna
be
move to
going-
my next line. We don't have to get into it. I'm gonna move my next line. Finance director's back here. Something that the council has looked into, at its meeting last night, and it's certainly relevant as to the budget, is this OPEB net asset that we have. Typically, it's an OPEB liability. It's obligations you have to set aside for certain expenses related to retirees, health and dental. South Kingstown has a very strong OPEB net asset. At this point, we're 150% overfunded, which means we have assets set aside that exceed our amount of liability. Assuming today we had to liquidate the account and satisfy all obligations, we would be positive. Now, I believe our community is one of the strongest OPEBs in the state, if not the strongest, sitting at that 150% overfunded. Now, as it relates to amounts in the budget that we contribute for OPEB, the way we've been doing it, to my understanding, is that we make contributions that are equal to the amount that retirees are to receive in that certain year. Now, in the current year, and Brian, I'm going to say some numbers, just verify them as we go. In the town's budget, there's north of $500,000 in OPEB contribution already accounted for in the preliminary budget adopted. That's just the town side.
That's correct.
In addition to that, the schools have accounted for an OPEB contribution of north of $700,000.
That's correct.
Now, based on our strong overfunded OPEB, we've received a recommendation from the mathematician, actuary, who gives us guidance. We pay a professional fee to do some mathematics and tell us what is the amount you should contribute to this balance to ensure you keep up with potential increases in the OPEB liability. Now, our actuary has given us an opinion that you can contribute zero. Is that correct? Can you clarify that?
That's correct. That's correct. The town is considered super funded in terms of its OPEB. As you mentioned, we're at 100, as of our most recent OPEB valuation dated 6/30/2025, our funding level was 153%. And
Okay, great.
they are recommending, as you mentioned, they are recommending no contributions for the upcoming year.
Okay. Now, considering that recommendation of no contribution, that allows us to free up north of $1.2 million, north of 500,000 on the town side, north of 700,000 on the school side. As it relates to the school side, if we decided not to go forward, or if we decided to forego contributions to OPEB, the schools would then have freed up north of $700,000 that they could then use or reapply toward operations to fund any potential budget deficits.
That's
Now,
correct.
in addition to that, if the council decided it was willing to do so, we could increase the amount of the property tax transfer to the schools of north of 500 in the amount that we forego in OPEB contribution.
You're speaking on the town side.
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Now, just hypothetically, but speaking hypothetically, now, if the council were to do that, that would leave already done a property tax transfer preliminary budget adoption increase of 1 million. This would be an additional, I believe, north of 1.3 million.
1,337,000.
Okay, so that gets you just under 2.4 million total increase in monies to be used in your operating budget. Now, that doesn't account for any projected surplus. That doesn't account for any additional use of the school's unassigned fund balance, which we've already established is in excess of its 2% minimum that I'd like to maintain. So there's certainly options on the table here as far as monies to be utilized to help the schools keep funding the needed programs. Just wanted to point it out, and I think there's opportunity to work in combination of one, reallocate the OPEB, and two, the school's use of the unassigned fund balance, really anything north of that 2% amount. So anything north of approximately 1.3. Use of those monies, that's going to get you where you need to be here.
Mr. Sylvia, can I just ask a clarifying question? No. Can I just ask a clarifying question? Mr. Sylvia, so you said our OPEB financing is 150%. Mr. McEntee said we are 150% in excess. I just want
I
to.
said 150% overfunded.
Over.
Means we have an
over- yeah.
asset in excess of the liability.
Okay, so that means we're 50% over what we need. All right, I just needed to clarify that in my brain for it to make sense. Thank you.
So I just want to kind of restate it just so I am clear too, because I think I understand the way forward and I appreciate the thought and care that went into this. So actuarially, if we both bring our contributions, budget contributions to zero, that frees up 500,000.
Well, that brings up north of 1.3 million.
Wait, I'm not done.
Oh, sorry.
And it reduces expenses on our side, closing that gap. by the total of the 500 plus the 700. Right, okay. That's what I'm getting to. No, I think that's a great way forward. That starts to close that gap. There's still a gap. I don't do math too fast in my head. I'm thinking around 400,000. Plus we still have unknowns, transportation, food services, all those things that still are contractually not, we haven't finalized contracts yet. They're still out to bid. So our fund balance is needed for those unknowns, but I totally appreciate your willingness to work with the schools and to find this way forward, to save all the programs, because each and every one of our programs is vital to the education of our children. So I just want to, again, tell you how much this is appreciated, and I think we can absolutely get there.
All right. Thank you.
Can I
Any-
ask a clarifying question?
ahead.
And then kind of I like my clarifying questions. They make it make sense, right? So with what we're hearing and potential possibility forward, would this increase our floor, for lack of a better term? Would it be carried forward year over year, or would this be another one-time Band-Aid like we did last year with the 650? Would this be like a new number?
In addition to the $1 million increase that we provide in the preliminary budget adoption, this would also increase that by the north of 500,000 that the town would be contributing. As it related to the school's portion of contribution, there would be no increase in property tax transfer. That would be treated as just reallocating an expense that you already have in the budget.
And then the other point is just that, and I know you know this, but I just want to remind us that it's the public hearing and it's getting late and they want to talk, I'm sure.
All right.
Just to reiterate, so that would increase the property tax transfer by 1.5 million. 24, okay. And again, I want to echo Chair Better's comments that we appreciate the thought here that went into thinking through the possibilities of how the gap will be closed. So do appreciate that.
I also just want to say that that I heard someone say tonight, you know, like there's worry that there's no safety net, but in reality, we don't want we want to be here as a safety net. If you guys run into you know, major expenses, that's why we're here. So I'm really glad that we have found this way forward. And I want to, you know, recommit that we're here together to make it work. So.
In lack of time and to get to the public side of the public hearing, as I've said, I'm glad we're all meeting today because we want to fund public education in South Kingstown. We all believe in it. Our programs are some of the top of the state. And I'll say more tomorrow about my feelings, but as you know, I'm feeling optimistic from this conversation. And thank you all for coming out. Appreciate it.
So before we get to public comment, I just wanted to say that everyone here, all of us, believe in the quality of the education and the music and the athletic programs that we have in our students and our teachers. We've gotten hundreds of emails and texts and calls, and people stop us and ask us questions. I'm sure I'm not exaggerating by that happening in the last 2 weeks. That being said, we all value the First Amendment right to free speech, so we welcome and invite you to speak and share your opinion, and know that we do care about what you say, and look forward to hearing from you.
I do feel obligated to make a comment that this is a very complex solution. It's not like we have a bank account that the town controls. The OPEB, other post-employment benefits is what it stands for. Thank you, Brian. Is handled through an interlocal trust of a number of municipalities. we're told, and we have been trying for years to do as a pay-as-you-go process, which is why there is money in the fund with the trust. That's why it's 153%. The numbers work this year. Doesn't mean the numbers are going to work next year. We're going to have this conversation every year, because things are only going to get tougher with the state, not to mention the federal government.
All right. Well, it's been some good collaboration. Another good meeting between town council, school committee, town manager's office, school superintendent's office. Now we've reached the period we can hear from the public. Hopefully, took away some good information, learned some stuff about what's going on in the budget, and some potential opportunities to help fund, any deficits that are projected. But now's the opportunity to come on up and speak. We just asked that when you come up, you introduce yourself. We have a book at the podium. If you could, please write your name in. It's going to allow us to be able to identify you. And we're going to limit you to 2 minutes per person. I don't know if there's a timer in here, but I believe, there is a timer. Great. When you begin speaking, that's going to continue or going to begin counting down. You can use it as a means to gauge your time. But we're doing this for the purpose of hearing from as many people as we can. So with that said, first come, first serve. Come on up.
I didn't expect to be speaking here today. I didn't expect to be called on. I'm an old man, 86 years old. I've had a lot of students go through this school system, my grandchildren. And I've been very proud of the work that this town has done. I try to stay as informed as I can be. My memory is limited. But I just want to comment about this particular meeting. I find it to be rather useless to continue to use all of these. Of course, we didn't use trillions. We were talking about millions mainly. But I think the ears of people don't need to hear all about all those big numbers. What we need to hear about is, are we going to continue the great programs that we have in the South Kingstown? At the end of the program here, the town, the president of the town council kind of made a fairly decent analogy of the hope that we will be able to transcend the this year and not cut music programs, not cut health programs that have to do with mental health, when the country has the biggest problem with that area that it's ever had in its history. And I think we need to do more in schools, not less. So we got to figure it out. And I do agree with the last comment that was made, and that is that every year is another year. And believe me, what's going on in the world today is unbelievable. The money that's being spent to kill people, murder people, is outrageous, and I'm disappointed in the American public generally. There are people that are protesting, there are people that are bringing these things up. But I am disappointed generally that we can't turn this around. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Nikki Gardner, and I'm here tonight as a parent of both of a middle school and high schooler. And I see firsthand the incredible ingenuity our teachers, staff, and coaches use to make every dollar count. They are experts at stretching a budget, and there's a profound difference between being efficient and being underfunded. We know, and you've expressed it, that these students are our legacy. Many of you in this room are products of SK schools. You know that our district is not just a line item. It's the heartbeat of our town. When we underfund our schools, we aren't just cutting numbers, we're cutting into the potential of our children. Of particular concern is the possibility of cutting middle school and JV sports. I've watched my own children participate in soccer and wrestling at Broad Rock and the high school. Both teams having won their state title this year. Let's hear it for our Broad Rock athletes. Those lessons that they learned on the mats and fields can never be found in a textbook. These years, when teenagers are navigating their independence, the relationships they form with coaches are invaluable. These mentors bridge them into adulthood, offering guidance and character building that happens beyond the classroom walls. These mentors teach resilience, discipline, and character. For many students, the relationship with a coach is the reason they show up to school and the reason they stay on the right path. If we lose these programs, we lose the unseen education that creates these successful citizens. You know, a full budget, like you guys have been crunching the numbers. I appreciate all your hard work at that. Is far beyond my capability. We operate a little bit more emotionally as parents. And, you know, the worst case scenario is that we fully fund our schools and that teachers can take a breath and come up, you know, show up to school and just be fully present for our kids to help them thrive, instead of always having to figure out how they're going to make do. And, you know, we know these educators are miracle workers. No matter, even if you fully fund the budget, they're still working on a shoestring budget. They're still putting their own money, extra hours into helping our students be the best that they can be. Yeah, you're getting more than your budget because of how hard everyone is working. And the teachers, the coaches, the staff, the parents, the families are all working so hard to support the kids. And the biggest thing you all can do as you go through the next few meetings is to please fully fund. It's up to you guys now to fully fund our school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And I just do ask if you could stay within the 2 minutes. We just appreciate it. Allows us to get to as many people as possible. I can't see the clock, but you can. I can't hear a dinger. So when it is up, I just ask that you politely conclude, just as a means to allow us to get as many people as we can. Go ahead.
My name is Evelyn Gray. I'm a fifth grade student at Matina Elementary. In the past 2 years, Ms. Johnson has taught me how to play the recorder, the violin, the ukulele, and the clarinet. I'm also a member of the chorus. Music class at my school is a safe environment. All kids get to experience the opportunity to try different instruments and experience music. I look forward to Thursdays where when instruments meet. We get to do something we have fun doing and we get to do it with our friends. Thanks to Miss Johnson and all practice, I can play a Taylor Swift song on 4 different instruments. As you can, I play softly too. One of my goals is to make the Broad Rock soccer. Please don't take this away from us. We are South Kingstown students. We are important.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Nicole Malanafi, and I'm a parent of both children in the high school and the middle school. And I was very excited to hear that there is discussions on improving the budget that's needed by the school system. Because if these fundings are not kept, then the cuts will fall on programs that are not required for graduation or state curriculum, like our sports and music and mental well-being. And we can choose better than that. We can choose a well-rounded education, because without this funding, these programs won't survive at the younger levels, and our high school programs will suffer. Sports and music are not extras. They are essential to a well-rounded education. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, students who participate in sports show better academic performance, improved focus, and fewer behavioral issues. The National Federation of State High School Association reports student athletes have higher GPAs, better attendance, and lower dropout rates. Music education shows the same impact. The National Association for Music Education finds students in music perform better academically and are more likely to graduate. And the U.S. Department of Education confirms extracurriculars keep students engaged and on track for higher education. As a parent, I see this firsthand. These programs give kids a reason to show up, a sense of belonging, and something to be proud of. Strong student outcomes also matter beyond just the classroom. Lower performance reflects on our schools, and it impacts South Kingstown as a desirable place to live. These additional fundings will also preserve the current middle school model. It will give our kids time to grow before the high school pressures that take over. So if we cut those programs, we would risk disengaging students and taking away what makes schools meaningful. So I appreciate and I'm thankful that you guys are discussing and considering that additional funding. It will help protect the sports, music, mental well-being, and preserve the middle school experience in South Kingstown. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is William Nikitas. I'm a student here at South Kingstown High School. I'm more notably a musician, a singer in the Escape Choir, and a guitarist, with my skill originating from the studio band class here in South Kingstown High School. Many students like me, many of which are here in this auditorium, have developed a passion for music throughout all the classes offered in the school district, from choir to jazz band to symphony to orchestra. We love and celebrate music and perform it on the very stage you have gathered here with the power to nurture this great art. If funds for this program are continued to be allocated elsewhere, then hundreds of young minds may never get to express their creativity and skill. Please save our music. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Julie Geary. I'm a mom of 3 musical scholar athletes. I truly believe that you don't need me to stand here right now and tell you about the importance of music at the elementary school or at any level. You don't need me to stand here and remind you of our award-winning music program, students like that, and how that stems from all of our children being given opportunities to learn music and to improve brain development, brain health, thinking skills, coordination, fine motor skills, creativity, communication skills, and considering we're here again, resilience. You don't need me to stand here and remind you of that because you know that music matters and keeping instrumental music opportunities for all kids is the right thing to do. Secondly, based on what I've heard as a parent in the community, it seems like there's a misunderstanding that a junior high school and a middle school are the same thing. This could not be more incorrect. Middle school models focus on a collaborative learning and developing students' social and emotional skills. A middle school model places student at the center of learning. The primary focus of middle school education is developing social, emotional, organizational, and interpersonal skills in students. The importance of teaming, I need you to hear this. The importance of teaming in the middle school model at South Kingstown has never mattered more than it does right now. Due to COVID, next year's 6th graders were deprived of a kindergarten experience. The introduction to social expectations of school was stripped from them as they sat in desks rather than learning through social play. The plan to turn the middle school into a junior high will potentially send these same exact kids to middle school without the emotional support that they need more than any class in South Kingstown has ever needed before them. There's something to be said about the number of kids that were here last week. Their parents voted you into office. As parents, we vote for you in hopes that you recognize our votes represent them too. Some of us, like myself, voted one time to represent 4 community members. They matter and our kids matter. They were on our minds when we chose you and we voted for you. They need to be on your minds when it comes to them. I appreciate you trying to find this money. I need it to happen consistently. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Hi, I'm Jonathan Sigmund. I live in Kingston, Rhode Island, right here in town, and I'm a school social worker here for the school department in South Kingstown. I'm so grateful and proud of our school committee and our town council, everybody here. I appreciate your service and I appreciate that you are working together to make something happen for the schools. I just want to say briefly this budget that the school department has put forward is the bare minimum. There are so many reasons why. One of the reasons is because the TAs get paid almost nothing, and they're the glue to our schools. And we just take it for granted. We don't give them raises properly. Even this year in the budget, it's expected that it's going to be a 2% raise. This is an issue I've brought up before at the school committee. It's really, really important. These people are dedicated public servants, really, and they need to know that we are behind them. Otherwise, how do we hire them? How do we find these people? So the school budget is a bare minimum, and we need to focus on the pay of the TAs in the future. And I also just want to say really briefly, right now there's a little effort going on where there's a professional development opportunity for NEASK members and also the SKESP members, the teachers as well as the TAs. And this is an unpaid volunteer opportunity for people to focus on different things. 1 week it's on building relationships with students. 1 week it's on instructional access, various things for about 7 weeks that a union committee has brought forward with the cooperation with the central administration. And 53 people have signed up, even though all this is going on, where who knows who has a job or where they're going to work or what's going on. 53 people not getting paid for this voluntarily or giving their time. So the staff and the faculty and staff in South Kingston are dedicated, and they need the support. Thank you for bringing that money forward or for finding that money. And yeah, thanks, FK.
Thank you.
Greetings, school council. My name is Samuel Thomas Crump. Music has completely changed my life. I've been composing music for about 4 years now, and the lessons it's taught me are unparalleled. Like, just like to name a couple, not being too hubristic about my songs is like lets me being less hubristic in like social life. Like me making time for like to slow down and just not going full pace in some of my songs led to me going less being less sporadic in real life. But I think that any creative outlet, not just music production, not just music in general, but art, music, creative writing, whatever it is essential because it teaches people lessons and it gives them expression that is unparalleled to anything else that they can experience. Taking away the music program is taking away these essential experiences for these high schoolers, and is not something we should stand for. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Elise Nikias, and I'm a member of the South Kingstown High School Concert Band and Symphony Orchestra. My friends and fellow musicians would agree that our music program must continue to be adequately funded in order to have the possibilities for creativity, dedication, and joy in future generations of South Kingstown students and community members, as well as students from other districts. The first experience I had with the SKHS band was when I saw them marching in the Veterans Day Parade as a kid. Ever since I knew I was going to be a part of it. In middle school, I learned how to play the flute, and eventually I learned the French horn and mellophone as well. And I will continue to learn and grow as a musician. Learning a new instrument is not easy, but some valuable lessons I have learned over the years are perseverance, hard work, and the joy of working as a group with something bigger than ourselves. Some of my fondest memories come from our numerous performances like concerts, parades, award-winning musicals, and festivals. These would not be possible without our talented music teachers and funding from our community. It would be a tremendous loss if funding is cut to our beloved music program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Laura Fackrell and I have a high school or middle school, excuse me, and an elementary school. And I think you guys can see that just from the people that have turned out and the number of emails that you got, that our town cares about these programs, cares about our school, and cares about the budget. And kind of the big thing that I see when I look on page 32 is the big zeros the past 6 years. And I really appreciate that you guys are working and are hearing us, and it sounds like you're working to try to come up with a solution this year. I'm just concerned that we keep doing this, and when are we gonna take and put the schools and these programs as priority? So it's not, I appreciate what you guys are doing, but just think of the bigger picture and think of all the support when you're thinking of the budget in future years and future talks, even in the next little bit, is that we are here. There are people here who want this to happen. So how can we make this happen? That's it. Thank you.
Did I beat Doral? Sorry. I didn't do that on purpose, I promise. Christian Blaney, resident here, taxpayer, property owner. I think looking at the big picture is important. We've got it's an intense subject, obviously. And the question in your minds as the town council, you're making this decision should be, how does the town feel about this as a whole? And I think our voting record tells you exactly how we feel about it. In 2023, we had a referendum vote to reduce the school budget. I think it was $1.5 million. And we had a record turnout for that, and it was resoundingly voted down, resoundingly. Not that long after, we had the vote for the bond for the new high school. And that was voted in by almost 10 points. In the political world, 10 points is a landslide. And in that same year, for the election for both town council and school committee, because of all the talk about the school budget and about the building of the new high school, there was a lot of opportunity for the town to vote for people who were against all of the above. And those folks were not voted in. And it was, again, pretty resounding. The next closest person to town council was about 1,000 votes off. And for school committee, it was about 1,600. So I think when you step back and really look at, does the town of South Kingstown support its school system? It's a resounding yes. And those are facts. It's not rhetoric. It's not a Facebook post. Those are the actual facts. That's our voting record. And as you're thinking of creative ways to, get this done, or if it comes to it and we have to contribute a little extra money to make it happen, you should be looking at that and understand that this is how the town feels. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Doral Beasley. I'm glad that someone brought up page 32. You don't have this, but the school committee and the town council has it. This is a little spreadsheet that I made up, and the only column you need to look at is the orange column. That's the property tax transfer to the schools. So you see, and you see the green next to it to the left, same amount of money year after year after year. And the property tax per pupil though, in 2021, it was $20,706. Next year, if you are successful in getting all the money you want, it'll be $27,081. So that would be a combined total increase over 6 years of 30% or 5% a year. So when you have when your enrollment is going down and you give the same amount of money, it's never a decrease. The reason we're here, art and music, sports. From now on, please, never, if you ever have to have another cut list, never put those on the cut list ever again. Okay, you do that because you want the place filled with people to come up here and like we did tonight. It's not necessary. You had a $68 million budget and you can't find $320,000 for art and the music programs that you were going to cut. Seriously. Stop using students, like I told you at the last school committee meeting. Stop using our students as pawns and props. Stop using them. This year, Barrington has 450 people working in their district, and their benefits, total benefits for Barrington, $14,200,000. We have 80 fewer people working in our district, and ours benefits cost $14,500,000.
Gerald, you are well over the 2. I'm giving you some rope here. You could sort of.
I just got one more comment.
Go ahead.
Okay. Where, instead of doing the hocus pocus like Mr. McEnany did, I don't believe you did that on your, I don't think you just pulled that one out of your head tonight as you're sitting up there. I'm sure that was something that's been working on behind the scenes. Okay. But for the last 5 years, this school district has reduced our employment numbers on average of 18 people per year. And for next year, you only have 3.6. Okay. That's where, if you needed to balance your budget, that's where it needed to come from, because we're already paying the 5th highest per pupil cost in the state and the 2nd highest for special education.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Janelle Jaber Morelli, and I first want to thank you for moving this hearing to a larger venue and allowing us to have the opportunity to speak. I have 2 girls at West Kingston Elementary School. They are in 3rd and 1st grade. I was born and raised in South Kingstown. Actually, my whole family went to South Kingstown. I'm pretty sure there is a photo of my dad and his high school basketball team from the 60s, 67, 65. I don't know, whatever the championship team was. I didn't always stay in Rhode Island. I went to college in North Carolina, and then I went out and worked in Hollywood for 10 or 11 years, working on the business side in the motion picture industry. I met my husband and we had our first daughter, and I always knew I wanted to come back to South Kingstown. And I remember having a conversation with my husband, and he said, "Isn't moving to Rhode Island enough?" Why do we have to, why can we only look for a house within South Kingstown? And I said, because there's no other place I would want to raise my kids. And there's something about South Kingstown, and it's small town magic. And I think we forget about that. I think we take it for granted at times. But after the blizzard, I remember we shoveled out our cars and then we started going and doing our neighbors. When one of my daughter's fellow classmates came down, was diagnosed with leukemia, the whole community showed up and they were there for him. That's small town magic. Also, this past October, we had a full on at West Kingston, we had a costume drive, a Halloween costume drive, where we thought we were only going to get 100 costumes. We had over 300 costumes donated and the community could come in and go shopping. That's for free. That's small town magic. So these students aren't just students. They're not athletes. They're not just musicians. They're not just artists. They're our future magic makers for this community. And we need to make sure that we're investing in them. And I do appreciate you working together and trying to find the money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Cadence Halleck. I'm a junior at this high school. And I came to this high school because of the music program. I looked around the area. I checked out a whole bunch of different high schools. I went on a whole escapade to figure out where I wanted to go. And I love music. My cadence means rhythm. I love music. And we are not just fostering this like one-time interest that students have when they come into high school or in middle school. We're not fostering just like I play the clarinet and then I'm done with it. We're fostering creativity and we're fostering our deep thinking in the future. And right now that is so important because of AI and it is infesting everything in our learning. And I see it every day and it makes me so upset. But music in every day in band class and in choir and Mr. Muir and Mr. Benz, we are there and we are present and we are making music together as a community. And that's just how we're going to continue fostering this community as these things grow and as AI grows and as all these things challenge us. That is how we're going to foster it, is by creating these safe spaces. And that is what you were funding. So please, please just make sure to put effort into that and to further us. And I'm so scared Mr. Benz is leaving us and I don't want us to just dissolve into nothing because like this is my life and this is all of our lives and sports are our lives too. And it is so important. But thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sadie Lang. I'm a member of Rebel Theater Group, Escape. I'm directing the spring play, and I'm a future varsity girls soccer captain. As of now, I'm the valedictorian of the junior class at South Kingstown High School. But despite how important academics are to me, the most influential parts of my life have been in the arts and in music. I've learned so much about myself and the world, being given opportunities to work with others and take leadership, like with the play. Mr. Muir and everyone in the music departments have genuinely changed my life and made me rethink what I want to do in the future. It's so important that we invest in the arts and support our students, allowing them to explore the world and learn. As a member of the South Kingstown High School soccer team, which is in somewhat of a building stage, I know the importance of having middle school and JV sports. Students need co-curricular opportunities to learn, to be bad, and to get better in supportive environments. Without JV and middle school sports, that would be impossible. It's absurd that these are the things we have to fight for every year with $1 billion budget, that the $1 million devoted to our students is one of the most highly contested parts. Please consider what's truly important and fight for your constituents, those who will be the future of this town.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sam Cadman. I am currently a senior at South Kingstown High School. I'm involved in the theater program here, and I'm involved in the Escape Choir Ensemble, I believe it's called here. So I have a good amount of experience with arts here. And personally, I think that when it comes down to budgeting, when it comes down to public policy, when you're making cuts, you're essentially deciding what is it that we as a people, what is it that we as an institution value. So the fact that every year when budget cuts come up, the first thing on the chopping block is, oh, the art programs, the theater programs, the sports. I understand that some people might not value that, but I think that it represents something deeper. It's everybody's passion, it's self-expression, it's intellectualism at its highest peak. It's the ability to say what you want to say, do what you want to do, and do it in a way without, all this stifling nonsense of the real world, if you will. It's idealism. That's what it is. So I think that going forward, we need to be more proactive about the budget rather than reactive, because it always seems like year after year after year, it's how do we get to the next year? It's like a sinking boat. We're trying to get water out, any way we can. It seems like a dire situation. So I think that we need to come up with a longer term plan. And I, call me naive, call me what have you, I don't have much experience in public policy, but I find it hard to believe we can't find $2 million, was it, in the budget, a $2.4 million deficit? I'm just saying, I could go further into it, but if any of you guys want to talk to me after this, I could go far longer than 2 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. If anyone else wishes to speak who hasn't spoken yet, I invite you to just come on up.
Hi, I am Orange here. I've been playing trumpet since I started fifth grade last fall, and I have found a love for playing. If the sports and band programs are cut, there will be absolutely no reason to go to school. School will be seen as a place where you go and sit at a desk all day. But if you don't cut these programs, school will be loved for many kids. I am going to middle school next year, and the band program will be very exciting because there will be many more kids now. I'm a baseball player and I'm trying out for the Broad Rock team and very excited. If you cut the sports programs, many kids will be upset. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else wish to speak?
Hi. Hello, my name is Navashir, and I've played the violin since fourth grade. It's become a huge part of my life, and I'm now part of the BRMS Orchestra as well as the Vivace Before School Orchestra. I also sang in elementary school chorus, and now I still sing in the Broad Rock chorus. I'm also part of many after-school programs, such as the SMILE program, which provides amazing opportunity for students to go to URI, compete in an engineering challenge, as well as taking a tour of the URI campus. I'm also part of the Green Team, which educates students on how to properly compost and recycle, which is vital for future residents as our state landfill is set to fill up in 2046. Another program I am a part of is the BRMS Drama Club. Drama Club has taught me how to be confident in myself as well as it has for many others and will in the future. Cutting our music programs through the elementary school would be devastating to many kids who want to play in the future, and cutting our after-school programs would not provide students with as much opportunity to find things that they love to do or that they might consider doing in the future, as well as finding things that they care about. Thank you.
Thank you.
It on? Okay. Hello, my name is Maya Hubbard. I'm a freshman at the high school. And I wasn't really planning on speaking today, but I really value my time that I've spent in the orchestra. I wasn't able to start in 4th grade as so many others were, because of COVID. But when I started in 5th grade, I discovered this thing that gave me an opportunity to express myself in ways that I couldn't during that time. I was pretty isolated, and I was able to express feelings inside that I didn't really want to share. And this love has continued to foster throughout my years, and I was given the opportunity to play with the high school this year. I'm part of the normal orchestra and the symphony orchestra, which is many of the band instruments and the full orchestra. And it's really incredible. Once you get on stage with the whole instrument group, you just hear this brand new sound and it sparks something in you. And I can't really describe it because there's no good way to describe it. But it's something that makes me me. I was really sad that the string fling that was supposed to be tomorrow got canceled because of this meeting. But I think it's important that in order to have these concerts that I value so much, that are something I value so much, we need to address this issue that everyone in this room cares about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just used to being really loud. Hi, I'm Katie Garvin. I just wanted to say thank you again. I know that everyone's been putting a ton of time, a ton of energy, a lot of work into this. We really appreciate, to echo Janelle, being able to shift to a larger venue for tonight. That was super, super helpful. We really appreciate the effort. I love the creativity. That's so awesome. Obviously, that's what we want to see. I think that Christian's point was huge, that when we really look at what the town, in terms of how people are voting, want to see, is that they want to see their schools really thriving year after year, program after program. I'm going to also echo some of Laura's concerns that it's really a little daunting to be like, okay, phew, oh, we made it through. Maybe we're going to get creative for this year, but we may be back in this same exact position next year. So I guess I'm just sort of saying, for the sake of students and families and really our teachers as really the biggest one. I know there were a lot of us that were at the school committee meeting 2 weeks ago, I think, and there were probably 20 to 25 South Kingstown teachers in the audience. And all I could think was, I mean, there were people sitting there wondering, okay, is my program going up because I'm here or here on the seniority list? And this is a really, really, really busy time of year for our educators. We've got RICAS, we've got NGSA, we've got National Honor Society, we've got all these different things, college recommendations. It doesn't, depending on what level they are, teachers are trying to help students who might need academic support. There's a million different things that teachers are trying to do right now. And I don't think any of our teachers really have the bandwidth and the energy with everything they're already doing that's extra to sit at these meetings and be like, oh God, is it going to be this year? So if there are ways that, and Deb made a great point at last week's meeting, if we can help people understand what needs to be done in terms of letter writing to change the funding formula, things like that. You've seen, and we have lots of eager students. We have a lot of eager people. Nobody's afraid of saying we'll all work together to try to figure this out. But if there are ways between, let's get through this moment and hopefully
the money has been found and that's so magical and great. And then we move forward and try to get really creative going into next year so that we're not just back in this same position. One thing that I think is really important is that we have families who are kind of watching all of this. Maybe their kids are still little, they're not quite sure what their plan is for school yet, or they're about to transition from the elementary school to the middle school or from the middle school to the high school. And they're in that flux zone of where's my kid going to go next? Where are they going to go to school? And there are people who have the capacity and or the resources to just be like, ugh, this is a lot. I think I'm just going to skip that. And it's hard to get those kids back. Once we lose them, to maybe a CTE in another district or to private schools, and that everybody should choose the option that works best for their kids. But what I'm saying is that there are a lot of people who unfortunately still just take to social media to try to get all their information, and they don't come out to stuff like this. So they're just seeing, oh, there go the sports again this year or whatever it is. So I'm just hopeful that we can all really pull together in the next year and get things in a place where we really can raise that floor. So we're not back at this exact same juncture a year from now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is anyone in the audience who hasn't spoke who wishes to? I invite you to come on up.
Hi, my name is Keisha Hubbard, and I am a student at Broad Rock Middle School. I am currently in the orchestra and have been playing the violin since 4th grade. My sister Maya just came up, and she did not unfortunately get the opportunity to play in 4th grade, but it has become such an important part of our lives for the both of us, and cutting this program would be detrimental to many kids in this district. And the parents to have to sit here year after year and wonder, is my kid gonna no longer be happy going to school every day, missing their favorite